You tell yourself you'll do it later. The work, the message, the decision. But later turns into tomorrow, and tomorrow turns into quiet guilt. It looks like laziness, but it doesn't feel like laziness, because a part of you wants to move, and another part quietly stops you. So what is that invisible resistance? And why does it feel stronger than your own intentions? It starts small. You open your laptop, then suddenly feel the urge to check something else. You think about starting, but your mind drifts. You scroll, you delay, you wait for the right mood. And the strange part is, you're not avoiding everything. You can spend hours doing easy things, watching, organizing, planning. But when it comes to that one thing, your energy disappears. And afterward, the self-talk begins. I'm just lazy. I have no discipline. Why can't I just do it? This isn't just about productivity. It starts affecting how you see yourself. You begin to doubt your capability, your consistency, your identity. You start believing a quiet story. I'm someone who doesn't follow through. And over time, that story feels real. But here's the part that doesn't add up. If you were truly lazy, why would you feel this much tension about it? Why would not doing something feel so uncomfortable? That contradiction is important, because it points to something deeper, something your brain is trying to avoid. What if this isn't laziness? What if it's protection? Not obvious protection, not physical danger, but emotional. Because your brain doesn't just avoid pain you can see, it avoids pain you can feel. At some point, your brain learned that certain actions lead to discomfort. Maybe starting something brings the risk of failure, or judgment, or realizing something about yourself you're not ready to face. So instead of pushing forward, your brain quietly pulls you away. Not to sabotage you, but to protect you. Because to your brain, avoiding emotional discomfort is just as important as avoiding physical danger. And once that association is formed, it becomes automatic. But how exactly does this process work? Inside your brain, there's a system constantly predicting outcomes. It's called reward prediction. Before you take action, your brain asks, what will this lead to? If the answer is reward, you feel motivation. If the answer is discomfort, you feel resistance. Now here's where it gets subtle. The discomfort isn't always obvious. It can be emotional. Fear of not being good enough. Fear of failing publicly. Fear of starting something you might not finish. So your brain links the task with a negative emotional outcome. And once that link is formed, your brain activates avoidance. Not consciously, automatically. Think of it like this. Your brain creates a shortcut. Task to discomfort to avoid. Visual, simple loop diagram forming. Over time, this shortcut gets stronger. Not because you're weak, but because your brain is efficient. It learns patterns and repeats them. There's also something called emotional regulation avoidance. Instead of facing difficult feelings directly, your brain chooses distraction. Scrolling, cleaning, watching. These aren't random behaviors. They're emotional exits, ways to escape what the task represents. So when you say, I'm lazy, you're mislabeling a much deeper process. You're not avoiding the task. You're avoiding the feeling attached to it. And until that feeling is understood, the pattern stays. This doesn't change with willpower alone, because willpower fights the behavior, not the cause. To shift this, you have to work with how your brain learns. What to do? Before avoiding a task, pause and ask, what am I actually feeling right now? Why it works. Labeling emotions reduces activity in the amygdala, fear center, and increases control in the prefrontal cortex. Real-life example. Instead of saying, I don't feel like working, you realize, I'm actually anxious about messing this up. What to do? Break the task into a version that feels almost too easy. Why it works. Your brain resists perceived threat, not effort. Smaller tasks reduce the predicted emotional cost. Real-life example. Instead of finish the project, you open the file and write one line. 3. Separate action from identity. What to do? Remind yourself. This action does not define me. Why it works. When tasks are tied to identity, failure feels threatening. Separating them reduces emotional pressure. Real-life example. You tell yourself, if this goes badly, it doesn't mean I'm incapable. What to do? When discomfort arises, don't escape immediately. Sit with it briefly. Why it works. Emotions follow a biological cycle. If not avoided, they peak and pass. Real-life example. You feel resistance before starting. Instead of scrolling, you sit quietly and let the feeling move through. What to do? Acknowledge yourself for beginning, not finishing. Why it works. This retrains your brain's reward system to associate action with positive feedback. Real-life example. You say, I started. That matters. Even if it was just 5 minutes. All of this comes back to one simple idea. You're not avoiding effort. You're avoiding emotion, and your brain has learned to protect you by creating distance from discomfort. So here's a model to remember. The invisible wall. When you try to act, it's not that you can't move. It's that there's something unseen in front of you. An emotional barrier, fear, doubt, pressure, and pushing harder doesn't remove the wall. Understanding it does. Because once you see what's actually there, it stops feeling like resistance and starts feeling like information. You're not lazy. You've just been listening to a system that's trying to keep you safe, even if it's outdated. The goal isn't to force yourself forward. It's to gently understand what's pulling you back. Because behind every delay, there's a feeling waiting to be seen. And when you stop running from it, something shifts. Not instantly, but quietly. You start moving again. Not because the task got easier, but because it stopped feeling like a threat. And maybe that's what progress really is. Not pushing harder, but finally seeing what you were avoiding all along.